Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of Dunedin Fine Arts Center virtual programming. Today we have a conversation with artist and designer and student and man of the world, John Rieben, whose fabulous paintings of people in a variety of very interesting styles is in our second floor teaching gallery through the end of May. So Dunedin Fine Arts Center is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. Come on by and see his beautiful show. And I'm going to stop rambling and get into our programming today. Catherine Bergman, our lead curator, is here with us as well to talk with John. Catherine, do you have anything to say before we start our presentation?
No, I think I'll wait until after we take a look at John's paintings. It's just such a delight to be sharing his work and to have him with us to talk about his life's work, really.
I want to thank Catherine for making these wonderful videos of all of our exhibits. So we're going to do a quick walkthrough of John's exhibit for anyone who isn't able to make it into the show. Here we go. Sorry, I was on mute. Thanks for those videos, Catherine. I love when you make those.
Absolutely.
Well, welcome this morning. We have with us, of course, John Rieben.
And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Nathan. I'm sorry, something is not working here. Can we stop this? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't see myself here. It's like.
Who can you see?
Only you. And
I can only see you.
And I know maybe you guys, I don't know why.
Okay, go to the top of your little picture window, and there's maybe at the top there's a little dash, a little square, and then two little rectangles.
A dash, a square. Well, it has me, mute, more. Let me see. I don't know. It just has, at the bottom, it just has share screen lit. And when I hit
All right,
participate,
let me come in. I'll be right there.
sorry.
So I don't necessarily have to see me, do I, while I'm talking?
Do you want to? It helps me to be
No,
able,
I don't think so.
it helps me to see everybody.
Oh, okay. I want to see everybody.
Yeah, I want to see you. I kind of want to see you because then I'm like talking to you. It feels more natural. Otherwise, I'm just looking at a blank screen. I'm sorry, Nathan. It just helps me because then I can see John and see his face and see you. And so, yeah, I don't know why it's so participants. Oh, sorry. And then,
Side by side gallery.
oh, it was that way before. I didn't know why it had
Yeah,
changed.
and but John likes
Okay.
it. John's got it the way he likes it. He doesn't like to see
Oh.
everyone.
Okay, and so at the end of the video, I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna just start. You're not gonna say, Catherine,
No,
sorry, I
actually,
should just jump right in.
What we can do
Ah,
is when I get back in,
yes.
you can pretend that the video just ended
Uh-huh.
and launch right into it.
Okay,
Because we'll cut out all this.
okie doke. Yes, I like seeing you, John.
You see me now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it helps me to see you.
I see you, but that's all I see. I see you.
Oh, you only see me, okay. Well, Nathan just gave me the guidelines for going forward.
Okay, I'm just gonna say a quick bit about where we put these videos, and then Catherine, you'll get started.
Okay,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, Catherine, for making those videos. I love them. We have lots and lots of content on our YouTube page, DFAC YouTube page. Also, we have a lot of great content on our website, dfac.org. Catherine, lead us into this discussion, please.
Well, thanks, Nathan. It's my particular joy to welcome John Rieben to our virtual talk this morning. John and I have a friendship of over a decade when he first moved to Florida. And before we get started with him sharing about his background in education, his design career, and life as a professor at University of Wisconsin, I just wanted to say that he is something of a legend here at DFAC, and everyone has been enjoying the current show, but they know John through his magnanimous donation of some of his face paintings to our Trashy Treasures events over the years. And this particular year where you see this wild grid that we created, the staff was able to identify our own doppelgangers. And so you can see how unintentionally John had captured most everyone. I particularly love Georgianne's, and Nathan's is pretty good. Also, Ken.
I love Sarah's.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And how that happens, it was pure magic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let us begin with John telling us about his training as an artist. And really, we're going to enjoy hearing about his life in the arts. It has spanned many years. Welcome, John. So you went to school for undergraduate at University of Michigan, correct?
That is correct. And I was not a very good student. I was immature, breaking away, all of that sort of thing. So when I did graduate, I think the big blue was glad to see me go. However, Uncle Sam was desirous of my body, and I went right into the Army. In fact, I was in basic training when the official graduation day happened. The Army sent me to Europe. That was the best thing that happened to me in my entire life. I was stationed just outside of Paris. And while I was there, I started looking around and seeing things that I had never thought imagined before. And the example I often give is my town was Saint-Germain-en-Laye, which is northwest of Paris. The next town down the road was Poissy. And at Poissy is the famous Corbusier Ville-Savoie. At the time I knew it, it was in terrible shape. The German soldiers had used it as a storage unit for horses' hay, and the GIs took it over and used it for storage also. So when I was there, it was in bad shape. But I would go there frequently with a bottle of red wine, often by myself, and just sit in that wonderful building, and I could just absorb something special that was there. I can't explain it exactly, but that same thing happened to me around Europe when I would see the kiosks with the posters on it and that sort of thing. It just changed my whole life. When the Army brought me back to the States, I have to say I was reluctant to come back. I liked it there quite a bit. I was unemployable. I realized I had no skills. I worked for a short time for an uncle of mine in Chicago who was a commercial artist. That taught me I don't want to be a commercial artist. So I did a very smart thing. I worked for a year to save money, and I went to graduate school at Indiana University. I first went there to learn film animation. I did that for a year, actually got a master's in it. But during that year, I discovered in the art department, there was graphic design, and that seemed of great interest. So I went there, became a student and all, and met a fellow named George Sadek, who was a Czech designer. He was head of my graduate program. He later went on to New York to, I always forget the name of the school he was at. Anyway, to become a director. But he understood what I didn't know. He understood what I should know. And he turned me on to modern design, Bauhaus, that sort of thing. He gave me the books to read. I read them all the magazines. I identified my design heroes, and they all seemed to be in Zurich. So my final year of graduate school, I went to Europe to find these guys, try to work with them, get to know them, learn what I could. And I spent most of that year in Zurich and in Frankfurt. In Frankfurt, I went to the Bauer Type Foundry, worked a bit. They were developing the Universe typeface at that time. Anyway, I met all my heroes. When I got my degree and looked for my first job, all of a sudden I discovered, well, that was hireable. The Swiss design movement was just beginning to get its foothold in the States. And I was a guy who had been there, knew how to do it sort of. And that resulted really in my first job at Container Corporation of America, which was, I couldn't have picked a better company to start out with. I worked, I think one of the most important things that happened to me at Container Corporation was meeting Herbert Bayer, who had been a master and a student at the Bauhaus. And the year I joined Container Corporation, he retired. He was retained as a consultant. He lived in Aspen at that time. But my first job, one of my first jobs at Container was to design a retirement portfolio for Mr. Bayer. I see it on eBay even today. I was maybe 15 or 20 of his prints in a nice, maybe 24 by 35 book or container. My first design was a bright, shiny black container with Bayer on it and his Bayer typeface. He came in and from Aspen into the Chicago office, and he looked at it a little bit and he said, "John, I am retiring, not dying." So I put it in Bayer blue, which it is today. I was starting to work on my maybe 5th annual report there. I was very young still. I was afraid I was staying in the same place too long. And my boss, John Massey, was a very famous designer. And I was I wasn't going to go anywhere with him as my boss. So anyway, I was offered this job in South Africa to help set up a design facility out there for Unimark International, which was the world's biggest design company at that time. They were everywhere. So I went out there for a couple of years and had wonderful experiences.
Now, John, if I could just interject,
Yeah.
as I recall, you said that that first job with the Container Corporation, it was really ideal because their focus was combining fine art in their advertising campaigns. Is that
That
true?
is true. They had done that all since before the war and during the war. The owner of the place, Walter Pepke, was committed to modern design. And he hired Cassandra Moholy-Nagy, Jean Carlu, George Kepish, Herbert Mather, Leger, all of the big names to do ads. When I got there, they were doing the great ideas of Western man, and they would combine a artist with a selected philosophical or political statement by some major writer. And so through that, I actually got to meet some of these people. And it's probably, at that time, I thought this is the only time my art history courses served me any purpose because I recognized their names.
Well, let me just also, I want to hold up this beautiful book that you put together of your design career, over 200 trademarks, logos, and much of your poster work, which covers concerts, libraries, operas. And when I was leafing through, I set my eyes on this one that I just loved the byline. It was for the Chicago Public Library. And of course, just the single typeset, the letter A. And you, as I learned, you had to come up with the slogan as well. And so the slogan is, A is the first letter of the alphabet. There are 25 more. The Chicago Public Library has them all in some very interesting combinations. And so when I found this piece, which so charmed me, you told me that it's in the Museum of Modern Art and you're getting royalty checks to this day for this poster.
Well,
is that true?
That is true. 4 or 5 of those posters of that series have been reprinted by a company in Chicago. And that A has always been the most popular, and they have to reprint it, all that. These massive royalties are not massive, young lady. They're quite modest, but I do appreciate them.
Pretty good to me.
But it is wonderful to have something in the Museum of Modern Art. The unfortunate thing is that happened so early in my career. How could I ever up that in the next 40 years or whatever it is?
Well, I just want to, let me just hold the book up too, just to kind of leaf through, just to give an idea of, I mean, my gosh, this is some wonderful.
I purposely, and I state in the front of that book, I'm including everything, the bad ones, the failed ones, the ones that weren't accepted, just everything.
I don't see any bad ones. I don't see any. And then there was one that, here's the Wagner operatic ring series, these posters, which I see somewhat referenced.
Well, all 4 are based on the same grid. And I don't think I've ever done more preliminary sketches for a project than I did for that. I have a 3-ring binder, a fat one, filled with variations in pursuit of the final thing. Yeah, that was a good one too, good series, and that got pretty good press.
John, I had a question for you. I went to Colorado State University, and I remember they had a really strong graphics program, and they had a big poster show every year. And the last time I saw it was at the Denver Art Museum. Were you ever in that exhibit?
I think it was like a bicentennial there. I knew the 2 guys who ran it. They did not like Swiss design.
Oh,
They preferred Polish film posters, that sort of thing. No, I never made their show. And
Well, I just want
I was
to know,
never angry about it, but I kind of wondered sometimes.
here is a poster that you did for Red Rocks in Colorado. A
Yes, yes, the
concert.
concerts up in the Red Rocks, yeah.
And then here's one for a film festival. Really outstanding, John. And this book is normally in the gallery. I just took it to feature in our talk today. So I encourage everybody when they come to visit the show to take a look at your book, your
Is it
design.
meaningful that it's still there and nobody has lifted it?
Oh no, we have security cams.
Oh, good.
So your travels in design, it was stunning to hear how you traveled the world as a design director to the gold mines of South Africa, to Tehran, Qatar. I think you were on a German submarine at one point. Quite a surprising turn in my mind for somebody. I was envisioning you in your studio with your T-square and cut and paste, because at that time you were doing everything old school, right?
That was really all before the computer was used. When I began teaching in 1990, I think, at Wisconsin, the personal computer was just coming into graphic design use. In fact, one of my last assignments before I was teaching was with IBM. They were introducing the personal computer, and their advertising theme was smart desk. In other words, a desk was smart if it had a computer on it. And at that time, I couldn't figure out how this was ever going to be of any use to a designer. First of all, everything IBM had at that time, it was on a national kind of a trade show, a circular route around the country. Anyway, they were all prototypes. None of them worked very well.
You had to get totally up to speed to then teach graphic design.
Well, my first summer at Madison, before I even started teaching, I went to the Madison Area Technical College, which is very good, learned what I could. And then in the fall, the students came in who had never had computers in design either, and I could teach them a little bit. By the time I left, the students were so far past me, we didn't even talk about computers. They'd come in, sit down, they were doing it. I didn't like the fact that they were doing their research online and their ideation, in other words, conceptual drawings. They were doing it on the computer. I really thought they should be doing it with pen in their drawing books. I still feel that way, but they've come up with some pretty good results. Teaching was wonderful.
And we should say that you're Professor Emeritus, and so 30 years teaching at University
It was
of.
only 20 then.
Oh, was it 20? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And so, which brings us to you coming to Florida and discovering the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, which is when we met. And at the time I was the education director, and Carol Roosevelt was your mentor, your first intro to painting.
Carol was, and we hit it off pretty well because she's from Milwaukee, and that's my state, and we spoke the same language. But initially, I knew I was going to start painting when I retired. When I came down here, I looked around for places to take courses, and it didn't exist at the universities or the colleges. That's surprising with all the retired senior people here. You'd think they'd have some commitment to that. But anyway, I found Dunedin Fine Arts Center. Carol let me into her class, and I know she was wondering what the heck I was doing. I'd sit in the back of the class with a T-square, painter's tape, and make geometric shapes and then paint beautiful flat colors. I did that for 2 years, and they weren't small. They were, some of them were 40 inches square. Once in a while, she would say, well, take a break, do something else. Well, I've always drawn, and I've always drawn faces, nobody's face in particular, just faces. So it made sense to start painting faces. And I determined all my faces would be on 24 by 24 inch canvases because that fit my little car. And every blank canvas I approached, I tried to do something different, a new color, a new technique. I'd look at, get online, look at the old German expressionists and see how they laid down their paints and this and that. And so everything was a new experience. And little by little, I think I absorbed lessons which I could apply to the next one. So I don't know how many of these faces I did. I think about 150.
Now, I also seem to remember that just prior to coming to Florida, you returned to Switzerland, a trip to Switzerland, and you visited the clay, Paul
Yeah,
Klee.
in Bern. Yeah, my family's Swiss, and I spent some time just before coming down here. And I went to the Clay Museum, I don't know how many times, mainly to look at his faces. He did hundreds and hundreds of faces, all kind of similar, but all quite different. I think that probably pointed me in the direction of trying to paint faces. It was difficult at first not to try to emulate Mr. Clay's work. I don't think I ever did anything too close to it.
Now, when someone comes to the gallery, they can see, I mean, you started to speak of how you studied the German expressionists, Otto Dix and George Grosz and Clay.
Kirchner, Henry Fuchs,
There.
Erich Heckel, all kinds of guys. Kandinsky was very important in that movement.
And Kandinsky again was a professor at the Bauhaus. And then we can see some Cubist influenced works.
Yeah, that followed the Expressionists. A lot of these guys did both. In fact, a guy like Picasso did everything.
Right.
But it
Nathan, this style is, Nathan, among our favorites in the gallery, which the surface is so alive and there's a lot of scumble in the,
both of those are
and the colors are incredible.
are good accidents. They were both bad paintings, and I just gave up and then started throwing color at it. And then I started to see, oh, there's a face here, there's a nose here, maybe a mouth over here. That's how those two happened. And it was so much fun, but I hate to say it, it was pretty easy. And
Who was Professor Levy?
he was a guy I taught with at Wisconsin. He was in the Department of English Studies, I think. Nice guy, he had big hair.
So when people come to visit the gallery, they're going to see via your titles that, and many of these works were created during the pandemic, is that you took a foray into capturing your ancestors, rendering your family members.
There's this old saying that when the muses are on holiday, start painting. And that's what I did. I don't know why I seized upon my family as subjects, but it made sense. It made a lot of sense when I did it. And I had to, my grandmother, grandfather, on my mother's side, I knew I lived with during the war. They were easy. I had a lot of pictures of them. On the Swiss side, I think when they came over here, they didn't bring their cameras because I had very little to go on. And in researching their faces and the poor quality little brown and white photographs I had, I got to know them a bit. And it was a strange sensation, having never thought of them much, or really not knowing how they looked. I could create their face, and it was like making realism out of something I knew nothing about. It was another little magic thing. But I've mentioned before, I feel like I know my ancestors, my recent ancestors, much better than I did before through this process.
Yes, I love that. I love that. It turned into a really intimate exercise in
And
the
then you have Herbert Bayer, you know, the stem. I spent a lot of time on his portrait. And I have to say, it looks like him. Whether or not it's a good painting, I have no idea, but it does look like Mr. Bayer.
and that must be his famous blue.
Yes, but Bayer blue. It was the Colorado sky blue.
Mm. Yes.
Got a few
So-
more here. We have Uncle George and it's a cousin, our cousin over here, Manfred.
My sister looked at that and she said, "That's not your cousin, that's you when you were in college." And I looked at it, and I kind of looked like that in college. I know
Oh,
it's hard to believe, but
I could see that. And I think that that was a girlfriend of yours on the.
yes, yes.
Ah. And you said her nose didn't really look
Her
like.
nose was not like that. I didn't want her to make her look too pretty, so I put a big nose on.
Oh, and the other thing that I noticed in some was the modern, how the modern elements started to surface in some of the portraits. There's one where she has a cell phone and somebody's on, and there's Aunt Marge.
Aunt Marge, yes.
Marge. And we feel like everybody might have an Aunt Marge in their life.
Yeah.
I really do have an Aunt Marge, but she doesn't look like that, nor is her energy like that. But
My Aunt Marge was only 12 years older than I am. And when I was a little kid, she and I were kind of friendly. And then as she got older, she became a little different.
Were Uncle Julius and Aunt Marge married, or?
No, he's Uncle Julius was my Norwegian grandfather's brother. And he had he lived in Wisconsin. He had the unfortunate experience of going back to Norway to visit his family in 1939. That's when the Germans invaded Norway. He never got out. He stayed there during the entire war, and then he died shortly after.
Now I think that we had discussed there's the cell phone, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had discussed how we thought the fellow with the mountain ear flap hat with his dog drinking a brewski, that we thought that was a portrait of you. And knowing that you had a beloved dog, Max, even though that's not Max in the painting, we all concluded that we really thought that reminded us of you.
Well, I agree. There's some of me in there. A lot of my favorite things. It's not a brewski when it's a German beer.
Oh,
Only Americans
you're
drink
right,
brewskis.
I'm beer bitte. But the chalet, I built a chalet, an authentic chalet in New Glarus, Wisconsin.
oh
That
wow.
nice green hat he's got on. I have a collection of hats. I have at least 35 to my wife's despair. And Maxie, my dog, was a yellow lab, but he had the same
No.
kind of look.
Well, everyone has really been enjoying your show, John. I know that. There's been a lot of conversation, and with classes in play, instructors have been bringing the groups out to take a closer look at your work and have discussion.
And then, in talking about a self-portrait, this is the only one that is labeled self-portrait in the whole show, right here.
Wow, I didn't catch that. But we thought we saw another character on the left. We thought we saw a notorious politician's resemblance there.
It is a politician, but it's not the one you're referring to. It was a Colorado senator.
Funny how those politicians all have that
Yeah,
same
they,
vacant or ominous.
I just want to point out on these two paintings in particular, the way that the paint is sort of marbled is really beautiful, John. Like the subject matter is funny, and but the painting itself, I think, is really fun for students here at the Art Center to see. And I'm still trying to figure out how you did some of that with a brush or a palette knife or something. It's really great.
And fingers, I think you said you use your fingers, yes?
well, not recently. When I did the face series, I was hardly ever using a brush.
Wow.
I've been trying to put paint over paint over paint to try to get the depthness you get with oil. I'm trying to get an acrylic to look like an oil. And some of that stuff, it works. Now, thing I'm working on right now is a little bit more realistic. Well, I just did a violin recently. There's maybe 15 or 20 different kinds of colors on it, not painted smoothly, but dabbed. And that violin does have richness to it. Now, the problem is the rest of the painting doesn't have that yet. But these are wonderful challenges. And that's why I go to work every morning. I'm thinking about that painting now, wondering, when can I get back to it?
Soon.
Oh.
But Nathan, if you want a lesson or two, drop over to my studio and I'll show you how it's done.
Okay.
You know, I wonder if you have studied the fauves, because some of the coloration is. I mean, I
Well,
guess-
you know, the fauves and the expressionists, I don't see a sharp division between them. They're the same as far as I'm concerned. My recent heroine, is that proper, or do I say hero both genders?
Sure. Hero and Shiro.
Kandinsky's girlfriend, Gabrielle Munter.
Ah,
Looking at her landscapes and things and the colors she uses, and I really admire that. I'm going to try to borrow some of those combinations in what I'm doing. But that's the exciting thing about this painting business. There's so much that has gone before you that you can draw upon. I can't imagine starting on canvas and just having no ideas and no resources.
So John, I love these four paintings together. They are kind of a walkthrough of, most cubist to non-cubist kind of approach to the same or similar anyway,
Yeah.
person or subject matter.
yes. And I thought that was Sly Stallone on the far right in his Tyrolean fedora. And I also want to acknowledge that Nathan played a huge part in laying this show out, and I think he did a fabulous job. I love the groupings, and in some instance the compare and contrast, but the bodies of work speak for themselves. But we thank you, John.
Well, it's fun doing this stuff, and I'm very happy you put it all together. I've never seen all of this work displayed at one time, because I have quite a small studio. And when it just fills up with these things, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe have a fire.
No. I love that series. Love the two women. There's the laptop, the one with the laptop, and I think she's on our invite, right?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes. And then the other gal, but I'm partial to stripes. I love her with her martini and her ciggy and her little painted fingernails. All the details. Wow. You must get lost in them when you're making them. And I do wonder to what extent you plan them out before you're
Well, the geometric stuff was very well planned. I did it on the computer, printed it up, took the printouts into the studio and did it. Now I do rough little sketches. I have an idea. I start on the canvas and it always changes. I'm doing a guy now that was sitting in a chair, holding a book, I think. I think the chair was one of these stainless steel Bauhaus chairs. Well, the guy now has his legs spread, holding a violin and a bow, and he's sitting on a couch. Everything you do on the canvas reflects something else you've done. You make changes. That's where the design instruction I've had has been helpful. You're constantly seeing things, seeing relationships, making changes, and it's live. You know, it's
Yes.
nothing static about it.
These pieces that are direct front and center when you get off the elevator coming into the gallery, the two cubist style, I just think those are so powerful, so perfect.
And neither started out looking like that. These are evolutions and evolutions.
Yeah,
The guy on the right was, remember one time we had a lot of brighter colors, green lines. I just pulled it back. Gal on the right was the opposite. It was very boring, and I start adding contours to her, making her look more feminine. I think that works pretty well. But yeah, I like both of those. I have to admit it.
Very, very strong, as are so many pieces in the show. And we're just,
These two guys were early on. These were of the Face series.
yes.
Guy on the right, Rabbi, this was a fellow who had the bunk below me in basic training.
Oh.
And after he served his 3 years or whatever it was, he went to rabbi school in Cincinnati. But he was from Detroit. His family had a delicatessen. And he got weekly packages from his mom. And boy, he was a popular guy in our barracks.
Yeah. Good old sandwich guy. Well, thanks a lot, John. For all, it's always so fun to hear all the stories behind the work, the people that you knew. And of course, we have some of your friends here today with us. So love to open it up to discussion with friends or questions. People can type into the chat box or just unmute yourself and interrupt us.
I think I saw John appear for a moment. Maybe he was going to ask you a question. John, I saw him on the video there.
Yeah, John Trotman, do you have a question that you want to?
You have to
You have to
unmute.
take yourself off mute, John. Sorry.
You.
There
How
you
many
are.
times I had to do that on Zoom over lockdown? Unmute. Hi, John Rieben.
Hi there, John. How are you?
I'm pretty good. You're looking very good yourself. John, I've known you a long, long time. You and your lovely wife, Connie, were at our wedding, and that was in 1969. So that gives a clue as to how long I've known you. And, you know, apart from our good friendship, I've always been a tremendous admirer of your creative problem solving ability. What I wanted to ask is, when you're approaching, and we both indulge in fine art now rather than graphic art, let's say, do you still approach it as a problem solving exercise? I.e., do you set out with something specific in mind and work your way towards it, or is it an organic process where things grow?
I don't often start out as a subject that I want to interpret and finalize. I might start out with a paint problem like this. I want to use the reds, blues, purples, and maybe orange on this one because I saw it in a Emil Nolde painting. I might start out with something like that, but except for the geometric stuff, I don't usually start out with a subject, a real subject in mind and trying to refine it. It just happens. You know, when I was doing the faces, I'd just put the brush to the canvas and it would happen. it just happened. You know, it was kind of like magic. But you know, I go back to my in some of these things. I go back to the habits of being a designer and sketching, knowing what you're going to do ahead of time, and then trying to achieve it. But not all the time.
Mm. But even in your description there, it sounded like you set parameters, which is a way of working with problem solving or some kind of structure to begin with. Yeah.
Well, I use the old computer to look at things. I'm always looking at things. And if I want to, for instance, have the idea of, well, maybe I'd like to put a man in a chair, I'll go into all the well-known painters I know and look at their paintings of men in chairs. And then I'll go to a photographic source and look what men in chairs look like in a black and white photograph. It's that the research part is something I usually do. Incidentally, John Trotman there is calling from Leighton Buzzard, England.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Welcome.
And on my wall, you might see a poster you recognize, Strings.
Oh, is it one of John's?
Yes,
He
it's
has- he
the
has one or
Carter
two of
Library.
them.
It's my
Oh,
favorite
wow.
poster of all time.
Now, what time is it there, John?
Oh, it's 10 minutes to 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
When we were working in South Africa, John, in a manner of speaking, worked with me and for me. But one day he said, you know, Rieben, you go home at night and read a book just to keep one day ahead of me.
Now, you're an artist as well, John. Yes?
Well, I was a graphic designer and I'm now spend my time painting, watercolor painting mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, I see all the paintings directly behind you.
He
Oh,
does
yes.
wonderful English landscapes. He should. I tell him to do a book. He should.
Are you guys going to let us come visit England again?
Oh,
Are
please
we
do.
going to be
Please do.
welcome at any point?
Yeah, John and Connie have got to come over, and we're going to revisit Vera country because we had a good trip there one time, but we didn't find Vera. But we're going to.
Wonderful.
If that means nothing to you, you've never watched one of the best TV series.
Oh, Vera, I
right.
do know Vera. I do. I also know Doc Martin.
Doc
And
Martin.
That's the other side of England. That's Cornwall.
That's Cornwall. Yeah.
Cornwall, yes. I've seen quite a few shows in Cornwall. Oh, I'm a big fan of, I belong to an I Love British TV group page on Facebook. So yeah,
Oh goodness. Yeah.
I'm all over it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're watching Line of Duty. It's one of the best things we've done.
Oh, I have not.
Oh, must be.
I have not begun that one.
But we're off topic anyway. We're here to talk about John Rieben.
It's easy to happen. Now, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
There is another comment, a couple more comments here in the chat from one from Diane Wheatley. Anxious to view John's work in person at DFAC, amazing career. And another from Terry Fortner, who says he received a phone call and had to leave. Will it be posted online? This is recorded. Yes, that is all true. So we will be putting this online on our YouTube channel. Let me show you what that looks like. Here. So that's youtube.com//blah, here, user DFAC videos. Anyway, you can go to YouTube and search for Dunedin Fine Arts Center. And we have all of our talks with artists and exhibitions and instructors, a lot of great content here. And that's where we'll put this once it's packaged up and looks pretty, so.
Now, Nathan, is our YouTube channel also accessed through our website? I think I mentioned that all of these used to be easily accessed via our main Facebook page, and the fact that we are in Facebook jail right now.
Yeah, the first place that you would want to look is our website, dfac.org. all the videos are there as well. So there's multiple ways to get to what you're looking for sure.
Now,
And this is
want-
this is our Facebook page that we're using at the moment here. This page that we created, Catherine, you created this way back when COVID first started,
yeah.
called One World. I'll show you mine, I'll show you yours, if you show me yours. And this has been a really popular page to keep
Yes.
people connected, and they can post things about their day or art related or things like that. So John's the video walkthrough of John's exhibition is also on this page as well. So
We also have a daily drawings group page. We have a self-portrait group page,
mhm.
and I want to create a dance page and a haiku page. So we'll see if I make that happen. But I did want to prove the premise of our talk today and our celebration of John as a lifetime artist by showing his portrait that is on the back of his book. And this was his self-portrait from kindergarten. And that was created in Baraboo, Wisconsin, age 5.
Haven't
Right,
changed
John?
much. Yep, that's right.
We have proof. Proof of a lifetime in the arts. Well, it's been such an honor, and it is an honor to have the works in person here, and everybody has really been enjoying them from when we were staging the show, hanging, and now it's been up for a few weeks, but everybody's loving it. I think the classes, teachers are bringing the students out to look at the work, and this talk with you, it's just great to have you with us in person and hear directly from the artist.
I've never seen all of the work together at one time, and it's a very satisfying feeling. I tend to think I just paint for myself, but you need appreciation. I've come to realize that. And this is a wonderful place. I'm glad I found it. I don't know what I would do had I not found it, but I really love you guys. You've been a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you.
Likewise. Well, Nathan, I don't know. Do we need to?
If there's no other questions out there, I guess we can go on about our weekend.
Thanks to everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so
And
much.
John across the oceans
Yeah,
there.
John will go down to the White Horse Pub and have one.
You're not wrong, actually. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. now we're allowed to,
We'll
but
be toasting you, John.
we can only sit outside in the garden, so you've got to wrap up. It's pretty chilly out there today. So.
Oh, it's not here. It's
No.
not chilly here.
Not in Florida. No. We envy you.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to visit one another in person soon, and you can come to Florida and
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of good Christmases in Florida, actually, with the Riebens, which we thoroughly enjoyed.
good.
We've never yet visited them in Wisconsin. That's a plan.
Well, if you come to Dunedin, you must come to the Art Center.
Oh, I have seen the Art Center in Dunedin, and I'm sure to be back there.
Good. Thank you a million, John.
Thank you.
We honor
Yeah,
you.
a lot of
We
fun. Thank
celebrate
you.
you.
Okay,
right.
take care.
Thank you, John. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay.